Today's video is going to be a little different. What we're going to do is we're going to take you along on 5 days of travel, 4 overnight stays, as we're relocating from Polk City, Florida to Milwaukee, Wisconsin. And what we're going to experience is the level that the campgrounds are open right now. The day we're leaving here is Thursday, May 28th, just to give you a point of reference, and we will arrive in Milwaukee on June 1st.
The other side, are you going to be on the grass?
I'm good. I'm going to cut it now. My passenger side is clear, correct? So this is an obvious example of how awesome it is when your travel partner really understands what you're trying to see back there, and you have a good communication style back and forth, and you trust each other. Walkie-talkies are invaluable. It's not that it's that hard to drive a big box like this, it's just that any little dent or tap into anything, because there's such a deck of cards, it's so super expensive to get fixed, and when you live in it full time, you would have nowhere to live while it's being fixed. Way in the distance here, off to the right of the golf cart, you can see Mark. He's walking his dog there. And Mark is one of our subscribers that we met and converted when we were at the R Village rally in February 2020. He was very gracious. He talked to his neighbor across the street and asked him if we could park in his carport and set this whole wonderful experience up for us. We're going to be driving by Mark's house there. You can see he's got a Dutch Star stuffed away in there. And let's not forget to point out his pride and joy, which is the buffalo off to the right. This whole experience here at Mount Olive Shores North would not have been possible if it wasn't for the magic of RVing and pretty much the spirit of the R Village type of environment. We first met Cindy and Barb way back when we were in Minot, North Dakota at an FMC rally. And later we ended up meeting John and Spicy when we were at the Tampa RV show. Well, one thing led to another, and we decided to all sign up for the R Village rally, and lo and behold, the guy that parks in between us is Mark. And it was because of that combined friendship that we all eventually formed the plan to come together in this community. John and Spicy actually liked it enough that they bought a property here, and they're going to be building a beautiful home. Barb and Cindy stopped in for a week, and we were there about a month and a week. Wouldn't trade the experience for the world. It was a really fun time. Sue went out there. We call it watching the wheels turn. You want to make sure your tow vehicle is in neutral, obviously, but you want to make sure that your tow bar locks up before you hit the freeway. So we zig and zag and make sure it locks up and it's at the right length, and kind of a last minute check to make sure everything is good back there before you end up towing a bloody stump down the road for 20 miles before somebody flags you down.
Blinker action.
Yeah, I forgot about that.
This looks good.
We checked that our light connection is working.
Good. Brakes are good.
Okay, a little zig. A little zag. Permission to come aboard. So we have to slam the door on the Dutch Star. It's got two latches, one normal use to shut it, but then when you're underway you want to slam it so that it engages the cam locks that can keep that door shut when you're going down the freeway. Sue and I use these rest stops in our route planning so that I have an opportunity to visit the restroom as well as get up and stretch my legs. What you have to be careful of is some of them are an absolute surprise that they're closed because that doesn't show up on Google. And then there's other ones that had limited availability for truck drivers only. We did find, I would say, that about 3/4 of them were open to the public still, so you should keep that in mind when you're using it in your travels. Some of these places look familiar, you know, either that or they're all starting to look the same.
No, I don't think we've been here.
So this was our first experience. You can see that I got out of my rig and I said, well, I'm going to give you a big KOA hug, and she responded right away. And for the most part, it was touchless. You can see here that she's grabbing some paperwork for me, and that was just some nonsense because I had a $50 gift coupon, and just giving her the number apparently wasn't enough. They physically had to have it. But the lady went inside, processed my paperwork. They knew I was coming there, and then the cart ends up escorting you at a typical KOA. This one wasn't overly complicated, but trust me, some of them are, where the sites are just, you know, left and right and up and down, and you wouldn't really be able to figure out which one is yours until it's too late. You can see that I had this giant spot that was perfectly aligned to the tangent of this curve here, and it was just perfect for our overnight stay. We didn't even have to unhook the Honda. So we just put 340 miles on. We came from Polk City, Florida. We were in a beautiful place for about a month and a half, and it came time where we decided that we had to relocate back to our hometown. Sue needs to visit family and friends. It was a pretty long drive for us. I would say it was about, what do you think, Sue, about 7.5 hours?
About 7 hours.
Yeah, and that includes the proverbial bathroom break so that we could get out and stretch the legs. Because of the pandemic, we did not go into any of the rest stops, so we used our own restroom facilities. It was relatively touchless check-in here. You know, I'm sure many people are going to say that this is a waste. We're just literally plugging in so that we can have both of our air conditioners running.
It's hot here.
It's really hot. We could have just as easily, I guess, had our generator on and been in some Walmart or something like that. Anybody that's watched our channel now for a while knows that that ship has kind of sailed for us. We just don't do that. So what we're going to do now is we're going to go walk the route out of here so that we don't have any surprises in the morning. So it's May 28th, 2020, and we're on our way back home to Milwaukee. And just as we thought, this is the type of thing we're going to see for a while. I don't know how long, but we're in Georgia and it's pretty warm now. So if this pool really was going to be open shortly, I'm thinking it would have been cleaned up already. But you see that it's closed due to the epidemic, and you look at the condition of it. This is the type of thing, I think, on a lot of places that are small-time operations you're going to run into. This is a KOA journey, and a KOA journey is a smaller one that is along the way, and they don't pretend to be, you know, overly opulent. They're meant to be in the right place at the right time for the right price. It's not a holiday where it's, you know, big party time. So I'm trying to talk. No
swimming tonight, no.
Yeah, I was trying to talk Sue into it. I told her maybe it's just a little rusty to water, but now we see the sign, so we're not going to do it. Bringing her in, honey, in a big one. All right, everybody, listen to this noise. This is YouTubing at its finest.
Oh my god. Can you see okay or am
I can see okay. Okay, that was not a good one once again. I would have forgot to unhook the electric. I would have just drove away. I think I would have, unless I would have saw it in the mirror.
Now let's see if the wheels are turning. Wheels are turning. One, we've got a Honda to the right of us. This would be us. Then to the left, there's another Honda. Wow, you don't see much of that.
So this is the new style that you have to adopt when you're refueling. This particular stop really wasn't needed. I only needed 65 gallons, but it was a love stop. And I wanted to check to see what the current discount was, and I think we saved about 16 cents a gallon on this. Later on we'll show you a much better savings that we got at TA.
Ready to deploy.
It is May 30th, 2020, and if I'm a little lethargic right now, it's because I just got done driving and resting at rest stops and stopping for bathroom breaks. And it took 7 hours to drive, what, all of 3 hours, or 300 miles?
Yeah, I think it was about 300.
Something like that.
Yeah, 7 hours, but we did three stops, 3 breaks.
Yeah. And my wife is smart enough to know that an old guy like me needs to stop. There's Myles in the background. You can see that we've got a really awesome spot here. Like we had said many times, we're not Walmart campers, even though we're just doing a stay overnight here. But what we wanted to report to you is...
Do they know where we are?
No.
We're in Louisville South KOA. We're south of Louisville, Kentucky.
Mm-hmm.
It's a holiday KOA. It's very nice.
We're keeping to ourselves. We're social distancing. We're actually just relocating from this wonderful community we were in Polk City, Florida. We're actually going to have a episode on that where we're going to show you how awesome that place is. But we're relocating to Wisconsin. We'll probably be there for a couple of months visiting family and friends. What we want to show you is how dead this still is. Remember, we told you it's May 30th, 2020. And this particular state, what state are we in, honey?
Kentucky.
Yeah, we're in Kentucky, and this campsite, for all practical purposes, is closed down. It's only open for people that are staying one day, passing through, or if you're going to stay longer than that, you have to quarantine yourself for 2 weeks. That's per the law here.
Yeah, they also said no Kentucky residents can come in here right now.
Yeah.
So it's all people that are from out of state.
Right, which I guess is they're recognizing the fact that there are people that are full-timing that are stuck in the situation like we are, where you got to live somewhere, and you're trying to get back to wherever your home base is. So you can see in back of me, it's just unbelievably empty. And we'll show you a few things that are a little different about this KOA. Let me turn the camera around. So right next to Myles here is, believe it or not, a campground or a campsite directly in back of it. Right next to us is a site here. So this would be awesome if you're with a group of campers that you know and you want to have a big soiree here. You can see that these things kind of back into each other in a little island that's here. This is all kind of a little island in its own, but you can imagine that if no one knows anybody and you back right in here, it could get a little crowded. If we go on the other side of Myles where the Honda is, let's see how agile I am getting over this tow bar. No grunting allowed. Oh my God, I think I broke my spine. Okay, so this is a spot here in this campground right next to us. So we've never seen a campground that's configured like this, and it would really lend itself to groups and parties. But this is it, man. This is camping COVID style, effective 5:30.
So when we got here, we asked, is it normal for it to be this empty? And we were told this is so unusual. Usually they're jam-packed. Last weekend was actually Memorial Weekend, and it was just like this. And they said usually it's just jam-packed. There's no way we could have gotten in here.
So they did say that it was not, it effectively was still not open yesterday, and I'm sure a lot of states that was actually their first open weekend.
For the weekend?
Yeah.
Yeah.
Well, let's take a walk and check this place out, hon.
All right. Cool.
So I'm sure on any other normal weekend, today's Saturday, I believe, Sue, this basketball court here, and in the distance, that bouncy trampoline would just have tons of kids on it. It's really in a nice area. Sue, if you look over to the left, that's where the pool is in the distance. Looks fairly large from here. I asked the guy if that was going to be open, and he said that he anticipates it will not be open this year at all.
Wow. Let's go check it out. This looks like a nice pool area. Unfortunately closed. So it's a nice big area. It's got a beautiful area over here for sitting. Looks like up these stairs there's even more area. Very nice. Right into the building.
So when we were in Florida, it was probably about the end of March. We had predicted that we were going to come back to our hometown in Milwaukee, and we were going to leave in March so that we could spend April and May meandering up to ceremoniously show up on June 1st and surprise all of our friends, even though they probably wouldn't be surprised because we always come back in June. But we think we're going to surprise them. But what we didn't anticipate was the pandemic. So the pandemic kept us in Florida about an additional 2 months while we were waiting to see what was open, what was closed, and what was going to happen. When we finally made a decision that we got to be somewhere, and it was getting hot in Florida, and that wasn't the real concern. The real concern was in the central Florida area that we're in, we had to start thinking about hurricane season. And you want to get out of there before it's a panic rather than during the panic. So, okay, we just packed up and left. Now, my initial planning to drive back to Milwaukee, I was hoping that I could find something that was wide open enough and interesting enough that we could breeze in and still see and do a few things on the way in. But I was discouraged pretty quickly, and maybe I didn't try hard enough, subconsciously, I'm not sure. But a few of the things, there was a waterfall, a giant waterfall I wanted to see, and then there was a place in Rock City that had a bunch of different things. And then there was an ark that was built out in the middle of nowhere, and it was, a giant reenactment of, the biblical ark with all of the animals loaded on it. That looked really interesting. That was closed too, and after about the fifth or sixth thing that said it was closed due to COVID, and then they had some anticipated opening day, but it was always 3, 4, 5 weeks in the future, and not knowing if there's going to be any additional flare-ups or anything, we just decided to pack it in and just basically relocate where we're going to hunker down probably for another couple of months. This is the typical thing that we had to get used to on our trip here, where you would pull up, you would have reservations through their reservation system already, you would have prepaid, minimum contact, somebody from outside would either have a package prepared for you that you would then grab, and you knew where to go, and assuming you could figure the map out, you could drive yourself, or a place like this that is admittedly very, very crowded and packed from a site standpoint, with a cartoon map that's a little bit tough to understand. You're actually escorted in by somebody, but it's about as touchless and minimum amount of interaction as you can do. I did determine there is one good thing about the campgrounds being extremely underutilized during the pandemic.
Pray tell, Mark. What is it?
Well, many times on the channel I've talked about how I've gotten lost in campgrounds, and I'm here to tell you it's real easy to find Myles.
Yeah,
straight
right,
through
right
the
now,
back.
Yeah. No distractions, nothing in the way.
Come on, let's
Very
go.
good.
Let's go suffer in our primitive setup and turn the TV on and
Air conditioning.
crank the AC up. All right. So, this time Mark beat you coming out of the rig.
Oh, how rare is that? Holy smokes.
So where are you? Do you even
Well,
know?
we're kind of in Indiana. That's all I can really say. We're maybe about 80 miles north of Kentucky,
Okay,
heading north.
we just got off the freeway.
Yeah, we're off.
Let's get out of the roadway so we don't get killed here. But this is part of our escape from Florida. During COVID traveling, we just used our restroom in the rig, so we're not really planning on using the bathrooms here, but we certainly wanted to stretch our legs.
Our leg stretcher for Mark especially, because I got to get up and move around. He did not. Let's walk the husband, shall we?
Let's do that.
A masked man at my pump.
After our disappointing fill-up at Love's, only saving 16 cents a gallon, Sue and I intentionally waited to find a TA to fuel up, and it was fantastic. What we found was that the cash price on the pump was $2.50, which is what you would pay if you showed up there not having a fuel card. And after taking on 110 gallons, that can really add up. Well, when we finally found out through the TSD logistics readout after we paid the 65-cent fee, that our fuel cost actually was only $1.75 a gallon. And when we entered all these numbers in our chart and took into account the fee that we paid, we ended up getting 67 cents off per gallon for a total savings on this fuel stop of $73.98. If you would like to participate in savings like this, we recommend you review our episode 96 on how this card works and how you can sign up for it. We are in Oak Lake RV Resort in Fair Oaks, Indiana. This is our last night before we drive through Chicago tomorrow and pull into Milwaukee, Wisconsin. We were in Polk City, Florida for about a month and a week, and we were deciding whether or not we're going to relocate back to Wisconsin to visit family and friends during this COVID thing. That even though things are starting to open up, what we're finding is that a lot of these RV parks like this one really are just open for people that are coming only one night and they're going to keep to themselves and they're going to move on, or if they're going to stay for an extended amount of time, they actually have to shelter in place still. So a lot of the rules still aren't fully opened up, at least this time. You'll notice the coach, which until about 3 hours ago when we got here, it was perfectly clean. So was our Honda. We pulled in here, and to our horror, this place was just solid white powder blowing up. I couldn't even see this thing in the back. It was just like a giant storm.
Like Pigpen.
Yeah, and I mean, it was comical. I told Sue, I said, either we're blowing up one heck of a dust or my engine just blew up and that's all water vapor out there. It's 3/8 TB gravel that obviously was dried. Sue, let's go over here and we'll show you once again how empty this campground is. But this campground is relatively small slots. These in this area are some of the longer ones, so we were able to fit real good. But as we were driving through here, I could see that if you were trying to maneuver a big rig in here, you might have a little bit of an issue. This is a beautiful place. This is the classic place you would want to take your family and just enjoy all of this great shade here, which we're normally not used to. Wait till you see the next place we're going to be at for 2 months. It's literally a parking lot. We're off to the side, right by the road, but we love it because it's a perfect location and it's cheap. It's only about $850 a month, which we thought was expensive when we first started RVing, but we discovered it is a bargain. One of the things we learned on our trip while traveling during this COVID thing was that sometimes you're planning a rest stop to be able to go to the bathroom, only to discover that that rest stop has been closed, and for whatever reason it doesn't show up on Google whether it's closed or not. So what we found is handy is if you can grab yourself a little time and seek out the proper signage to be able to find out where you can pee, and then you can they have visitor parking for you if you have to pee. So works out good. When we first pulled in, one of the things you usually do is I just take directions from Sue when she tells me to go forward or stop or whatever. But Sue was in the rig and I pulled in and I watched the guy in front of me and he stopped me shorter than I wanted to go in. But I decided that I'm gonna follow what he tells me to do. And when we got out of the rig, we could see that this was too close to this. We probably would have just been able to sneak it right here, but not, trying to worry about this in 3 dimensions, it wasn't worth it. So after about a half hour of fooling around and relaxing, we got around to moving this. Let me show you what happened. So I moved it about a foot or 2 forward, and unfortunately I forgot to take the Honda out of park, and I was wondering why it was a little harder to move with the old 450 horse, but rather than it idling forward, I had to just step on it just a little bit, so Let's go. This is why when we are
my goodness.
starting out, we always have a little saying. Sue will say, I'm going to go watch the wheels turn. And so what we do is we zig and zag when we first hook up to make sure that these lock mechanisms here are locked in place, but to make sure that we're not pulling flat, you know, the tires staying in one spot and turn them into a bloody stump, and then they start on fire. Bloody stump, honey.
What are you doing, Mark?
I'm going to confess to people that I've putzed around enough today, getting ready and going to the bathroom and
Washing your hair.
Washing my hair.
Who washed your hair?
Okay, she washed my hair because I took one for the team last night. I didn't take a shower because we're not hooked up with water.
Ew.
But I wanted my wife to feel fresh and alive, so I let her do it. But I procrastinated enough this morning that she actually went outside and dug the tires out on the Honda.
What are you saying? I'm doing most of the work now.
I'm saying that I am grateful that you do most of the work and giving you credit because I love you.
Ah.
So what I have to do right now is, a lot of viewers wonder how I'm able to pull my Honda Odyssey. And I credit that to somebody that I contacted on the internet named Rob, who was more of a man than me and was actually pulling this for quite a while before I finally started to do it. But he pulled the Honda Odyssey 2013 in this particular trim level with the 5-speed transmission. Is the only one that you can pull, meaning it's the latest model. You can pull, of course, ones with the 5-speed transmission that are the 2012s and below, but I wanted the youngest one with the least amount of miles on it. What I have to do is I have to start the car and let it warm up so that the transmission is bathed with warm fluid. So when I start out, and what I usually do is while I'm waiting for it to warm up, if we're already hooked up, I'll take a look at my connections just to make sure everything's okay and that nobody fooled around with it while we were sleeping. That is always something that can happen. It happens extremely infrequently, but there have been a couple vloggers in the past that had issues where if somebody wants to be funny and decides to take one of these pins out or takes out this cotter key and lets you have a little surprise down the road. So I check to make sure my cable is in. I look at the cotter keys. Of course, check to make sure that the safety brake switch is still cabled. This is our air brake signal that goes back and forth between the coach. On the coach here, you'll notice that there is an air brake cord right here, and when the air brakes are energized, the air signal is interpreted by a control that's inside my car. So the blue air hose that goes from the coach air brake system and leaks a little air to this fitting here that eventually comes back to this Air Force One module that then interprets how hard and what I'm doing on my pedal. Am I dancing on it? Am I really laying on it? Or am I slowly pressing on it? That's all interpreted, and then it sends air to a little cylinder that's underneath my dashboard. Let's take a look at that. So if we go inside underneath the dashboard in the Honda, you can see that there's a cylinder here, and there's a cable that's permanently attached to the firewall, and this cylinder kind of works in reverse because it sucks itself down towards the firewall, and in the process, because it's attached to the brake pedal, it brings the brake pedal along with you. So when I step on the brakes in the coach, it sends a signal through that blue hose to the module, which is then interpreted as to how hard I in fact have pressed on my pedal to see if I'm in panic mode or if I just want a little assist. And then correspondingly, the control then through this air pipe here will send the appropriate amount of pressure to this cylinder and push my pedal the appropriate amount down towards the firewall.
Left blinker's good. Right blinker's good. Brakes are good.
Destination will be on the right.
Looking good. Straighten it out. There you go. Looking good. I'm gonna back it up some more, but what we're concerned about is backing it up too far and bringing it off the airbags and having our hitch hit the curbing. There's a lot of RVs over there, and those are that's in the area that they actually keep open in the winter. So I'm going to assume these people have been here pretty much all winter. But look at how empty we are. We're a lonely little RV in a big old parking lot. Foot, 6 inches, couple inches. You want it beyond and go just a little bit further. It's gonna go beyond. Keep going. Okay, stop.